How a steroid-fueled prospect tricked the entire NFL, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Tony Mandarich story. We're going to have a little fun here today on a dog day of summer type situation. Hey, before we get into the video, ladies and gentlemen, the moment that you've been waiting for is here. The store, the merch is live AF. Son, two options of shirts. We got the Dome Dog. We got the Boiling Hot Take shirt. And then we have a classic little mug that I'm actually using right now. You got that mug right there. Boom, Louisiana's best hot takes, Skrmetta. Now get on down there, get in the store, get what you can. $50 or more gets you free shipping, by the way. Look, transparent, nervous AF about the store because we are not drop shipping. We are running this whole dang thing. So every single piece of product, every shipment, whatever, has to be fulfilled by my warehouse team, which is me. So I'm not a warehouse manager, so we're going to be some trials and tribulations. So give me a little bit of grace here as far as the time of when you get your orders or when you make your orders to when you get them. I'm going to try and do it as fast as possible, but you know how it is. So we already have a couple of orders, and it is so humbling to see them come through. It is insane the amount of support that y'all have given this channel and me. The fact that you'll rock a shirt or have a mug or whatever is insane. I just want to say I really appreciate it. So link will be in the description and go get you some merch. This is a limited run. There's only so much of each, and then we'll move on and move forth. Okay, let's get to the video.
In 89, the NFL was about to witness one of the greatest draft classes in history. Four of the top
89. So you got Aikman, Sanders, Deion, and then Derrick Thomas, I think.
top 5 picks would go on to become Hall of Famers. The Green Bay Packers held the number 2 pick. This was their chance. They chose Tony Mandarich, a man hailed as the greatest offensive line prospect ever. What nobody knew, his entire rise was a lie. But he wouldn't just go down as another draft bust. This was the most hyped lineman the sport had ever seen, who fueled his entire career with steroids. What are you saying, guys? It's Zane here. Let's get into the video. At 11 years old, he wrote on a piece of paper, "I want to be a pro football player." 10 years later, he'd be standing on that podium and whispering, "The plan worked." Tony was destined for Canton.
So what's kind of interesting about this is that we've seen this in a bunch of different ways in a bunch of different sports. So think about the era, right? 1989, you've got a small amount of information. Certainly the idea of, analytics and metrics and all of that is very crude. It really doesn't even exist. But even like how people break down tape or what tape they're looking at or what skills they're looking at, all that stuff is still very crude. So sometimes players take a different approach where they say, you know what, I'm just going to be really good at being really strong or really athletic. And they treat the combine kind of like the Olympics. Sometimes it works. It still to this day works. You still see players get drafted highly because of the workouts, right? Whether it's a 40 or a bench press or whatever it is, even now, even today, when we know that it really doesn't matter, we probably put too much importance on the 40, whatever. Even to this day, we see players like Darius Hayward-Bay shoot up draft boards because of a 40 time. Yoenis Cespedes in baseball, he infamously submitted basically a workout and got signed because of his workout video. It was like a thing of legend. And Tony Mandarich did that. He said, you know what? I'm going to train for basically powerlifting to dominate the combine, to dominate those numbers, and the football stuff won't even matter.
Set to change the O-line position forever. At least that was the talk around town. As a teammate would later say, "I knew something was going on, but I couldn't tell you what it was." I don't know, it seems kind of obvious, but I guess hindsight's 20/20. Mandarich had been using steroids throughout college, but he stopped as soon as he was drafted. So what followed was one of the most hyped prospects ever, who had fueled his career with steroids, get completely exposed when the drugs were taken away. But to understand this incredible lie and his fall, we need to rewind to where it started, in college. He was born and raised in Canada, but moved to Ohio his senior year of high school, and they thought his best chance at a Division I college scholarship would be playing high school in the US. That turned out to be true, because then assistant coach Nick Saban recruited him to Michigan State. He said Mandarich was probably the most dominant offensive lineman he ever saw. Despite that strong endorsement, this was 1984, Mandarich had only been in the US for a year, and he was relatively unknown. However, it only took a few years for this nobody to establish himself as one of the hottest draft prospects ever. At the same time he was getting national attention, rumours began to circulate. That's because in just a few years, he went from 255 pounds to a massive 315. Mandarich, of course, would deny the
Yeah, he was bulking out of his mind, son. I mean, and this is also a different era too, where rampant steroid use is big across everything, right? It's big across professional wrestling, it's big across the Olympics, it's big across boxing or what. Like, it's just part of. I mean, we saw what would happen in baseball 10 years later, right? Like the late 90s was the height of the steroid era. So testing wasn't what it is now, not even close to what it is now. So you could juice easily. I remember in high school, I won't say who it is, but I remember in high school, this is like 1A, this is like 1A baseball in South Mississippi. And I remember there were known guys in a high school who would juice, and they were huge, and they were big and strong. They'd hit home runs, and there's no testing in 1A baseball in South Mississippi. So all of a sudden, you're filling up the stat sheet, you got 28 bombs. It's like, man, what the hell's going on down here? No one's testing these kids.
Allegations of drug use. He frequently mentioned how he never failed a drug test, but it was easy to pass because at this point, the NCAA tested only at bowl games, and Mandarich was even able to beat those. One time he got a rubber hose, connected it to a bag with a clean sample, and passed the test for the 1987 Rose Bowl. He ended up leaving college early, moving to Venice Beach with his trainer, Mr. America, Rory. You know what? I don't want to even try and pronounce that name. I always get flamed for my bad pronunciations. Rightly so. So let me just put his name there. I'm sure those two got a great package deal on the good stuff. Despite successfully evading multiple tests at this point, entering the NFL, he knew it wouldn't be as easy, so he just quit. There were always some suspicions, but it ended up being drowned out by the immense hype. His own coach, who was previously an assistant for the Steelers when they won 4 Super Bowls, went as far to say, as a junior, he could have started on any of our Super Bowl teams. Now, in college, he did dominate. He was named first-team All-American, a 2-time Big Ten Lineman of the Year, and the only player to ever make the All-Madden NFL team while in college. It would
think about that. He made the All-Madden NFL team while he was in college. That is nuts. And, it is the ultimate turning a blind eye to what's right in front of you. There's no way you can look at this guy. There's no way you can see him repping out 405 or whatever it was at Venice Beach with his skin about to rip off of his body and not know that he is juicing out of his mind. What I would assume is that the coaches who drafted him and the people around him assumed that he would just keep juicing, and they were okay with that.
Reach a climax when he ran an official 4.65 40-yard time and completed 39 reps of 225 pounds on the bench press. That earned him the highest pre-draft grade of his class with 8.5.
And that's absolutely insane. Like, he's running a 4.6, benching 225 40 times, whatever it was. All Madden. 6'7", 330 or whatever.
Which was also the highest score since Bo Jackson, who got a perfect 9.0 in 1986. The size and athleticism just left everybody drooling, but the hype was starting to go to his head. I want to play here 10 years, and I want to be all pro for 10 years, and be remembered as the best. Obviously, everybody remembers Lombardi when they talk about Green Bay, and I want them to remember Mandarich too. The man hadn't played a single snap, yet he's talking about one of the greatest coaches of all time. Recipe for
granted, he was on the All-Madden team. What are you going to do?
Disaster. It'd get worse when the Packers actually drafted him. He wasn't thrilled about going to Green Bay. This was the post-Lombardi, pre-Brett Favre era, so nobody wanted to play for the Packers. Mandarich would call Green Bay a village, decide to hold out.
Yeah, he's also, this guy's destined for Muscle Beach, destined for Arnold,
and demand the largest rookie contract in NFL history. He didn't get it, but his 4-year, $4.4 million contract made him the highest paid O-lineman ever. Despite the red flags, he was such a physical specimen, most people were willing to look past it. Yet there was also some evidence he was not as good as they were saying. Now, he was a great run blocker, delivering numerous pancake blocks, but he was a weak pass blocker. Michigan State didn't pass much, say 10 times a game, so the weakness was somewhat hidden. But
yeah, again, so when you're talking about now, think about what draft prep and all that stuff looks like, where Todd McShay's doing 2-hour videos every single day on anybody. It's 24/7 coverage. Everyone's nitpicked every bit of every prospect. When you have someone like Mandarich, it's very similar to that young hombre I was talking about 1A baseball, where you see the 40 time, you see the stature, you see the bench press numbers, you see he played for Michigan State, you see the highlight, there might be some really nice highlight tape. That's it. Like, you're not really worried about much else. You're not really worried about his feet, his set, his hands. There isn't a well done, there is a scouting report, but it's probably not well done. It's probably just the crude kind of, this guy's a physical freak. This guy is a physical monster. And that's pretty much where it began and ended.
October 1st, 1988, for example. Michigan are facing Iowa, and Mandarich is blocking Jim Johnson. Johnson weighed 50 pounds less, and was starting in just his 4th game. Yet, he finished the day with 7 tackles and 2 tackles for losses. There was also evidence of substance abuse. He had the hair loss, the pimples on the back, and a lot of aggression. But when a 320-pound...
Yeah, and also, he looks... he's huge. I don't know if y'all saw the 40 reps. I don't know if y'all saw any of those videos of him working out. He's basically telling you he's on steroids.
Man runs a 4.65. Logic gets thrown out the window. Mandarich did come off steroids immediately after being drafted. That was because the NFL had a much stricter testing policy. After being drafted and holding out, Mandarich reported to camp down 15 to 20 pounds. Clearly the Packers had missed something, and that only got confirmed by defensive end Tim Harris, who said, "I just remember going through him like a hot knife through butter. I was thinking at the time, wow, what a big bust. We put $1 million in this guy." He was so bad, the Packers only started him in 9 drives his rookie year. That's 9 drives, not 9 games. The following season, he got forced in as the starter, but he allowed 12.5 sacks, 22.5 knockdowns, and committed 8 penalties. His next...
how insane is that? How insane is it that they draft him? But again, it's not like he went to Northern Iowa and they were taking a risk and whatever. He was on the All-Madden team. He got the highest rating at the combine. All this stuff. It's not like they went and found this nobody and said, well, we'll take a chance on him. If the class wasn't as impressive as it was, he would have gone first overall. This would have been a no-brainer, right? He did go ahead of Derrick Thomas, Deion Sanders, Barry Sanders. Barry Sanders was the Heisman winner, playing arguably the most important position in the game at that time. And they passed on Barry Sanders and said, yeah, let's rock and roll. Yeah, that's how heralded this guy was. And it's insane that it also shows you the time where, the guy in the video mentioned, it's mostly run blocking. Back then, especially in the Big Ten, you're just running the football, right? So you can hide some of this. You can hide some of the inability to pass block or whatever. If all you do is run, you're going to look pretty good, right? But now they would make him do a little bit of everything, But it's insane that he shows up. He decides, I'm off the juice. I bet when they saw him drop 20 pounds, they were like, frick. This is not good. That is all the writing on the wall right there. But the fact that he drops 20 pounds, gets off the juice, and then can't play a lick, 9 drives, that's crazy.
Season was better. He allowed 8.5 sacks, 13.5 knockdowns, and committed just 3 penalties. But he was still average at best. It didn't help that Mandarich developed an addiction to alcohol and painkillers shortly after quitting steroids. His technique was terrible and he didn't train. He was basically in a daze the whole time he was with the Packers. He went as far as carrying a syringe in his jockstrap and going to the bathroom to inject himself during practice. The Packers, of course, did not know this was happening at the time, yet despite the 21 sacks allowed in 2 years, and missing the entire 1992 season due to an injury, the Packers saw some improvement and were willing to give him another shot. But after missing workouts in the 1992 season, the Packers had enough and they cut him. The man who had been dubbed the Incredible Bulk was 3 years later dubbed the Incredible Bust. He was out of the league and his life spiraled. Thankfully, he did enter a rehab facility, and from that day he never touched another pill or alcohol again. That's what makes his story so unique amongst NFL busts.
Well, I think too, it's interesting because he will be known as steroids. He will be known as a cautionary tale with performance-enhancing drugs and steroids and whatever. And to a certain extent, yes, right? Steroids obviously boosted his performance and what he was as a prospect and his physical capabilities. But what really tore him up, his life, was drugs and alcohol. There are plenty of athletes who are in Hall of Fames and have records that were on steroids, and he is kind of a fork in the road where when he quit using steroids and quit, worrying about being a professional football player. Then all of a sudden, it just turned like it does a lot for athletes, where it just turns to recreational drugs or not even recreational, but I guess just drugs. The drugs that we all hear about with stories like this, just drugs and alcohol. And then I'm sure with post steroids, there's probably a ton of depression and manic episodes, and his mental stability is certainly not there.
Firstly, his insane rise was on the back of all these drugs. It then destroyed his life, but he managed to overcome the addiction. As he recovered from rehab, the thought of returning to the pros kept coming to his mind. But he'd been out of the league for 5 years, and when he was playing, he was not good. Yet, he still wanted to try, and he got an opportunity with the Colts. He played a backup role in his first year, but still came second in Comeback Player of the Year voting, so he managed to secure a starting position in...
It's kind of wild. Like, this part's crazy. This part where... Because it would have been real easy for him to go away in shame. No one would have blamed him. He's the biggest bust of all time, quite literally. Known steroid user, known drug addict, whatever. And then him to decide, I'm going to go back to where I was shamed. And not only go back, but then become a starter. Pretty impressive.
1997, and played well. A shoulder injury in 1998 that would have forced him to take painkillers again led to his retirement. He was a changed man. Of course, he never lived up to the hype, but he fixed up his life and somewhat redeemed his career in Indianapolis, which is pretty cool to see.
How to use auto...
Yeah, the end is cool. I mean, I honestly didn't even know that. I mean, that's obviously way before I was watching football, but I had no idea he had the comeback arc. I thought it was just bust. Okay, that's all she wrote. It is what it is. I had no idea he got himself together and whatever it was 5 years later, got another crack at it. So that's kind of cool. But there you go. Tony Mandarich. One of the most infamous Sports Illustrated covers ever. Very interesting. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching. Buy a shirt, buy a mug. I will see you in the next video.